Refinishing these two pieces of furniture was so much more work than I anticipated. I really should have known, but they came out so much better than I was anticipating, so it was definitely worth it. I'm Carla from Vintage Hip Decor, and we are back in my living room for yet another project in the series of where I am transforming my home decor to fit into my current color palette, vibe, and aesthetic that I'm going for. If you've missed any of the projects or videos that we've worked on in this series so far, I'll be sure to link the playlist down in the description and at the end of this video so you can go watch those next. But basically, I have been going around my home and changing my home decor one little project at a time, and it's really been snowballing, and I have to say that my spaces feel a lot different than they did earlier this year, and I really am loving it. It feels really good to have my home decor reflect the current aesthetic that I'm going for, so I'm excited to do yet another project to keep that momentum going. So this week we're going to be working on two pieces of furniture. The first one is this little side table here in my living room, and the other one is this little bookcase that I have in my bathroom. So both of these pieces I painted myself years ago when I was using blue as an accent color in my decor. But blue is no longer the accent color that I'm really going for, so I want to switch up these two pieces of furniture. But I don't just want to paint them a different color. Instead, we are going to be sanding them down, potentially stripping them down to the raw wood. I have recently fallen in love with the raw wood furniture look, and I thought that these two pieces would be a really great candidate to try out this finish. And it's also going to be a little something different. I don't have a raw wood piece of furniture in my home in any capacity, and most of my furniture is either painted like white, cream, or emeralds, or has some sort of wood tone. So I think the raw wood look is really going to bring in a nice element to what I currently have going on with my decor, and it's going to take these pieces that are really like rustic and very farmhouse and kind of chippy and turn them into like a little bit more sophisticated and refined. I'm really hoping that the project turns out the way that I am picturing, but of course with projects you never know if it's going to turn out exactly how you think. So I don't want to waste any time, just in case that this project takes me all day, which I have a feeling it's going to take a little bit of elbow grease to get this one done. So I don't want to waste any time and just dive right in. One really nice thing about this project is that both of the pieces of furniture are really small and I can very easily move them around myself. That's always a win. So I got my two pieces of furniture moved outside, and I put on some paint clothes because I anticipate getting very dusty during this project. But there are three methods that you can use to kind of achieve this raw wood look. So one of them, which I'm going to be starting with, is just sanding off your finish to the raw wood. But if for some reason your finish, whether that's paint or just stain, is really stubborn, then you can use some furniture stripper to coat the piece of furniture and let that break down the finish, scrape that off, and then sand that down to the raw wood. And then at the very end, when you do have your raw piece of furniture and it's still not quite as maybe light as you would want it to be, then you can also treat that wood with bleach to kind of lighten it and bleach it. Whenever you're working on a sanding project, it is very important to protect your lungs, so I'm wearing my mask for this entire project, and I recommend you do the same. Quick update on where I am with the pieces so far. Don't mind the really cute face mask line that I have. So I pretty much got all of the paint off of this piece, which I am pretty thrilled with. It does have this like kind of odd black thing happening with it that I'm not really sure what that is. So I actually will probably try bleaching this one to see if it kind of lightens some of that. I don't hate it, but just kind of curious to see what it would look like if I tried bleaching this. But then this one behind me, I was kind of spoiled with how easily the paint came off of this first one that I do not feel like sanding this whole thing down. I feel like it's going to take forever. It's going to take so many sheets of sandpaper. So I'm going to move on to the stripper method with this one. I'm going to coat this thing in stripper, let that sit, try and scrape off as much paint as I can, and then go ahead and sand off the rest. So we will see. The bookcase is in the basement doing its thing, waiting for the stripper to work and do its magic. So I brought this little table out front because I want to bleach it now. So this process is going to be really easy. I just have a spray bottle that is 1 part bleach, 1 part water, and I'm just going to spray this piece a couple times, but letting it dry in between each spraying. It is the next morning. Excuse me, I'm filming. Thank you. Rude. It is the next morning and there is frost on the ground, which is really not great for morale. It's looking a little cold out here. Hopefully I can just get straight to work and keep warm from moving around a lot. But I have my project here behind me. I'm definitely in that stage where I'm like, what have I done? Is this gonna turn out? Was this a huge mistake? What was wrong with it in the first place? So I'm like pushing through all of those feelings, and we're just gonna keep pushing through. See, I'm not even really good at convincing myself. Things are going well with the other little table. I bleached it a couple times yesterday, and the bleach hasn't taken away the black that is in the wood, but it has made it look a little ashy, which I really like. So I've already sprayed it with another round of bleach this morning. But what we have left on the bookcase behind me is to remove all of the saran wrap and scrape off all of the stripper. Now I know the stripper did dry in a couple places where it's kind of white, so you can just reapply stripper in those spots to reactivate the stripper, and then you should be able to scrape that off as well. Once I've removed as much of the furniture stripper as I can with the scraper, I will wipe down the rest of the piece and try and remove the remaining residue with some odorless mineral spirits. Okay, I have scraped and then washed down with mineral spirits. That took me quite a while. It was a lot of effort. It was not the most fun thing in the world, but I lived, and this is where we are now. I am ready to start sanding it, but I'm gonna let it dry out a little bit first because washing it down with mineral spirits really wet the wood, and you cannot sand wet wood. So I have to let it dry. I'm just gonna go inside and have lunch while it sits out in the sun for a little bit, and then I'm gonna come back and sand it. So when I went to sand this piece, it was so wet from all of the stripper and the mineral spirits that the finish that was left on this piece was sanding off in like a really awful like putty almost, and clogging up the sandpaper immediately. So I instantly knew I needed to give this bookcase a little time to dry out before I could sand it. So after a few days, it was time to get sanding, and it did take me a while and a couple different sanding sessions, but I finally got the whole finish off of this bookcase and got it down to the raw wood. And that brings us to today, where I am out here in this warm work suit because it is really cold out here. I have my bookcase here all sanded down to the raw wood, but I want to put a little bit of a finish on it because I don't love the way that it looks just naked like this, which I was expecting. Like with the little side table, I did the bleach look on that. I was expecting to do something else to this piece to kind of match my vision. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use this stain behind me. It's by Varathane. It's just designed to kind of age wood, and I did a little test spot on the back to see if I was gonna like it because the picture here shows it to be very gray, and I did not want gray, but it actually turned pretty like brown on the back of it. So I am gonna just coat the whole piece in this stain and then let it dry. I'm just applying this stain with a foam brush and evenly coating it. And it goes on clear, but then within a half an hour to an hour, it turns color, and we'll come back and see the difference between when I first put it on and when it has dried for a little while. I let the bookcase dry yesterday and I took it inside to the bathroom, and we are about to get to the before and afters, and then I will let you know what I kind of think about how these projects turned out. But there's one more thing I want to do really quick, and that's with this little table. I want to just whitewash it. I had done that on the bottom and I really like the way that the white kind of paint settled in the grain and it looked really pretty. So I'm just gonna cover this whole thing with, it's just a white paint, watered down, nothing serious, in order to make a whitewash. And then I'm gonna use this water-based polyacrylic to just seal it, to give it a finish. And I chose this one because it's ultra flat. I don't want any sheen at all. And that's pretty much the only reason I chose this particular top coat. All right, now it's time for the big reveal of the before and afters, but stay tuned for after that to hear my thoughts on how these projects turned out. Happy to be done with these two projects. Refinishing these two pieces of furniture was definitely more work than I anticipated, but I really should have known, because sanding work is always like just the most effort to get a finish completely sanded off of something. But it was so worth it because they both came out so much better than I even anticipated. Especially the bookcase, and I really didn't know that it was gonna work out until the very last minute. Because even when I went outside after letting the kind of stain finish thing that I used dry a little bit, outside it looked really like gray, more gray than I wanted, and splotchy, and it was not looking cute at all. So I just brought it in, let it dry a little bit further. And then later that night, I was just like, I'm just gonna put it in the bathroom and let's just see how it looks. Maybe that'll give me an idea of like what else I can do to this thing to get it to look better. And when I put it in my bathroom, it just like immediately, instantly, like it didn't look splotchy anymore. It didn't look so gray anymore. It just looked really beautiful. So that is not the first time that that has happened to me, where I have worked on a piece of furniture in my basement or garage or outside or something, and it doesn't look great, but then when I go and put it in its spot, all of the problem areas I was seeing before just like melt away because it just looks so much nicer in the space. So that is a big tip for you. If you're working on something, a piece of furniture, and you're like, I don't know if this looks good, and you're like close to the end or pretty much done, and you're like, I don't know. Just put it in the space and then try and decide if there's still something you want to do with it, because maybe it'll just work out like it did for me, where it just looks great and you're done. I really hope that you like these two transformations as well. It was really a big change from both of these pieces being like a blue color that does not go with my vibe anymore, and now they just feel like kind of mature and sophisticated and really like old and interesting. You know what I mean? They have like a lot more depth and dimension and character to them, which I really like. And also, I have to say that the stain that I use has me looking at like pine furniture a lot differently. If it had the ability of taking just my like kind of lame raw wood little bookcase and making it look as good as it did, I am interested to try that product out again on some pine. You know, if I go to like the thrift store or something like that and I see something raw pine, I'm gonna be like, maybe you need to come home with me. But that does it for this video, and actually that does it for all of the videos from 2020. We will be back in 2021 with lots more projects. I am still working on my home decor to make it fit into my vibe. We are gonna get into some organization as well in 2021, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of it. And I want to thank you for being here, for watching, and I hope that this helped you to see your home in a new light. This chair is unstable. I'd like to welcome you back. Is my plant looking happy or nah? Ooh, one was so dainty and the other one was not. Back again in 2021 with lots more room makeovers. Well, what rooms am I making over? I don't know. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because 2021 is gonna be a big year. It's gonna be a big year. Let's start over.